happy little games. In the late 80s to early 90s, the beat-em-up genre was in full swing. Thanks to the simultaneous two-player modes that were now available, nothing was finer than partnering up with your pal and kicking some butt. We had classics such as Double Dragon, Bad Dudes, and Final Fight. Another bona fide classic came along in the early 90s that would help define Capcom as one of the best beat-em-up creators of our time. That game would be Captain Commando, which is what we are talking about today. Where did Captain Commando first appear? What other Capcom games does the character appear in? So fall in line, soldier, because we are going to take a look at the history of Captain Commando. The year is 1990 and Capcom designer Akira Yasuda has been tasked by his bosses to create a beat-em-up in the style of their other mega successful game, Final Fight. The main development team was knuckle-deep into the development of Street Fighter II. Whoops, wait a second, wrong video. Let's try that again. The main development team was knee-deep into the development of Street Fighter II. So resources were a bit limited for this one. After bouncing ideas around, his team decided to go back to a character from Capcom's past, Captain Commando. Captain Commando made his debut 5 years earlier as a mascot of sorts who appeared in the packaging of various Capcom games such as Gunsmoke, Mega Man, and Ghosts and Goblins. These were all released as part of the Captain Commando Challenge and featured an illustration of the captain on the back of the box. His original design featured a futuristic space hero with 2 ray guns and 2 large medallions around his neck with the letter C engraved on them. The name of Captain Commando came from the first 3 letters in the word Capcom for Captain and the last 3 letters for Commando. Even though the designs are totally different, the unnamed character in the Capcom game Section Z is said to be the captain himself. A design change occurred when he appeared in some later Capcom titles for the NES such as DuckTales, Willow, and Strider. This time around he appears in a pilot suit standing in front of a fighter jet holding his helmet. Apparently he likes alien chips now because one is sitting on his shoulder. The arcade design was to take most of the popular elements from Final Fight and expand upon them. Final Fight was such a huge hit they decided to up the ante and add an additional 2 players to Captain Commando for a total of 4 players simultaneous action. Final Fight featured large detailed character models, but for Captain Commando to accommodate this, the character sizes would have to be scaled back, but it wouldn't be that noticeable once the action reached a fever pitch. This game doesn't feature gritty urban characters like Final Fight, but instead goes the whole superhero route with its characters who as a team have sworn to protect the Earth. The game takes place in the year 2026 in the area of Metro City, which is the same city Final Fight takes place in. Captain Commando blasted his way into the arcades in 1991. As the story goes, the world is a cold and desolate place where crime rules with an iron fist. A team rises up to erase the filthy, dastardly criminals not only of Earth but also the entire galaxy. These are not just any ordinary group of criminals though. They have a lot of super-powered individuals among them. The dastardly villains are led by Scumicide, which requires a super team to take him down. The super team consists of Captain Commando, the leader of the group who uses energy gloves capable of shooting fire and electricity. He also uses Captain Goggles, which helps identify criminals from far away. The Captain Protector, which is a super tough material that can withstand 1 trillion degrees of heat. the Captain Gauntlet, which multiplies his power by 48 times, and the Captain Boots, which allows him to fall from great distances, protecting him from harm. A true superhero through and through. The other members are Ginsu the Ninja, who has a razor-sharp sword. His signature line is, "I'll slice them and dice them," which is a reference to the original Ginsu knives that were made popular by TV adverts in the 1970s. Mac the Knife, who is an alien mummy-like creature from outer space that uses subsonic knives which melt any enemy he hits. The character is too cool for school and even gives Fonzie a run in that department. And finally, Babyhead, who is a genius baby who designed and built his robot that he uses to wage war on crime. The robot he uses has plenty of weapons at his disposal, making him a fan favorite for players to use. He is also as cute as a button with his pacifier still in his mouth. The gameplay is very similar to Final Fight, with the standard 8-way joystick being used along with an attack button and a jump button. The attack and jump button can be combined to unleash a special attack just like in Final Fight. You are able to perform various combinations while standing or jumping, including grabbing your enemy and using a power move. You can also dash by tapping the joystick in either direction. You can pick up weapons including 3 different firearms and also shurikens, which can only be used by Ginsu. The characters can also ride robots once they disarm the enemy that is using them. The robots have their own damage meter, and if hammered enough, it will be destroyed. There are 3 types of robots that you can use, including a punching robot, a freeze robot, and a flame-throwing robot. Thankfully, there are items that restore your health, such as a big slap of beef, just like in Final Fight. The game's objective is to move your character towards the right, dishing out punishment as you move along, where you will eventually face the boss at the end of each stage. The game takes place across 9 stages, including Metro City, the Museum, Ninja House, Circus Camp, Seaport, Aquarium, Underground Base, the enemy spaceship, and finally Callisto, where you face the final boss, Scumicide. Some of the bosses you encounter include Dold, Yamato, Monster, Dr. TW, Blood, and finally the big bad himself, Scumicide. The game is fantastic to play and is even a bit more fast-paced than Final Fight, because now when you do a combo, your character moves forward rather than just standing still. The control you have over your character is finely tuned, which is exactly what you would expect from a Capcom game. The game was not the mega hit that Capcom was hoping for, so this was the only solo game to be released featuring the character. It did better in Japan than over here in the States, but it has since developed a cult following. The character has appeared in a few manga titles which fleshes out his backstory, and even had an action figure made. The 4 members of the elite Captain Commando squad would show up next in the arcade quiz game Capcom World 2. In Street Fighter Alpha 2, Captain Commando can be seen as a background character on Ken's stage. Captain Commando was a playable character in Marvel vs. Capcom 1, 2, and 3. He would also appear in Namco X Capcom. In the year 2006, released for the PSP, Xbox, and PlayStation 2, the original arcade game was released as a part of the Capcom Classics Collection, which was a bundle of fan-favorite arcade games. In 2013, Capcom Arcade Cabinet was released on Xbox Live and the PlayStation Network. This is a bundle of 17 games, but the unique factor is the inclusion of a casual mode which greatly decreases the difficulty of each game. This made Ghosts and Goblins a whole lot more fun for me. He appeared as a costume in Super Ultra Dead Rising 3 Arcade Remix Hyper Edition, and also Dead Rising 4.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Man, I love beat 'em ups. I wish you could play this at home.
Yeah, but there's no way this is gonna fit in your house.
Captain Commando!
So you kids want to see a future where an arcade fits right under your TV?
Yeah!
Then come with me to 2018. Say hello to the Capcom Beat 'em Up Bundle. This bodacious bundle comes packed with 7 of the hottest arcade games of all time.
Final fight!
Knights of the Round! King of Dragons!
Hey, Captain Commando, that's your game!
Wow, Warriors of Fate! Plus it's got Armored Warriors and Battle Circuit! I never thought they'd come home!
And get this, all 7 games come with online multiplayer, thanks to the magic of the internet.
What's the internet?
And all this stuff fits inside that one box.
With room to spare, 7 games for the price of 1, all from your buddies at Capcom.
Radical. Yo, Cap, this is great and all, but we should probably get home soon.
Oh, sorry. Probably should have mentioned this was a one-way trip, huh?
You mean we're never gonna see our mom and dad ever again?
That's right.
"2018 brought us Capcom's Beat 'em Up Bundle, which was released for the Xbox One, PS4, Nintendo Switch, and PC. This is a collection of 7 arcade brawlers which included the original arcade version of Captain Commando. In Street Fighter V, Charlie Nash had a DLC skin of Captain Commando. There were only 2 conversions done back in the day, and the first and most well-known was the Super Nintendo version, which was released in 1995. A lot of what made the arcade game great has been carried over to this version. Since it's only a 16-bit machine though, certain sacrifices had to be made. It's now strictly a 2-player simultaneous game, but at least we have this. The original Final Fight only featured 1 player at a time. The sprites themselves have been scaled back from the arcade, but that is to be expected. The colors are not as vibrant when compared to the source material, and everything appears a bit darker. The blood from the arcade game is gone, replaced with yellow stars instead. Ginsu no longer slices his enemies in half as he does in the arcade game. The characters are missing some frames of animation as well. The robot suits from the arcade game that you wore are also missing completely. The sound effects are decent but are muffled for some reason. With any beat 'em up game, it's all about the controls, and this one is fantastic. There's a certain level of quality you expect from Capcom games, and this one does not disappoint. If you can get past some of the sacrifices that had to be made, then you will enjoy this on the Super Nintendo. In 1998, a conversion was made for the PlayStation 1. This was not developed by Capcom but by a company called New Corporation. They did a fantastic job as this is very close to being arcade perfect. The game initially starts up with 3 players simultaneous play, but if you enter a secret code, you unlock the ability to use 4 players simultaneously. Since this was a staple of the original arcade game, I don't know why they chose to do this. Visually, it's very similar to the arcade game with nice, smooth animation. The audio was great with some nice rearranged tunes and meaty, heart-thumping sound effects. The controls are fantastic and are nice and tight the way they should be. Check it out if you ever get the chance. Captain Commando has definitely taken on a cult status as one of the original Capcom beat-em-ups. While not as big financially as Final Fight, the game is still fun to play, especially with 4 players. I see the arcade cabinet every so often, so it's not as rare as some of these other games. So if you ever get a chance to check it out, be sure to do so. You'll be glad you did. If you like this video and want to support me on Patreon, please click the link below. Also, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching.